Why do human beings keep fighting each other, even in a world that constantly speaks about peace, freedom, and human rights? We write constitutions. We create international laws. We build institutions meant to protect dignity and equality. And yet, wars continue. Nations still clash. Communities still divide. And even in everyday life, people often treat one another as enemies. So the real question is not only why wars happen. The deeper question is this: why do human beings feel the need to create enemies at all? Because if we truly want a world built on human rights and dignity, we must first understand something uncomfortable. The roots of conflict may not only exist in politics or borders. They may exist within us. 1. Conflict is older than civilization. Many people believe that violence is a product of modern politics or corrupt leaders. But history tells a more complicated story. Archaeologists have discovered that even prehistoric human communities lived with constant fear of attack. Ancient villages were often surrounded by defensive walls and trenches. In many burial sites, skeletons show clear signs of violent death, arrow wounds, skull fractures, and weapon injuries. This suggests that conflict did not suddenly appear in modern society. It has been present for thousands of years. Some researchers even argue that early societies sometimes used conflict to protect their independence. Small tribes resisted centralized power by maintaining constant vigilance against outsiders. In other words, conflict was not only about survival. It was also about identity and power. 2. What philosophers say about human conflict. Throughout history, philosophers have tried to explain why humans fight. The political thinker Thomas Hobbes believed that human beings are naturally driven by fear and competition. According to him, without strong laws or institutions, society would fall into chaos, what he described as a war of everyone against everyone. From this perspective, peace is not natural. Peace is something societies must constantly build and protect. But another philosopher, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, offered a different idea. He believed that humans were originally peaceful and cooperative. According to Rousseau, conflict began when inequality emerged, especially when property, wealth, and social hierarchy started dividing people. Both views highlight something important. War is not simply about violence. It is about how societies organize power, resources, and identity. 3. The psychological roots of conflict. Beyond politics and history, psychology reveals another layer of the problem. The psychoanalyst Sigmund Freud suggested that human beings carry two opposing instincts. One pushes us toward connection, cooperation, and creativity. The other pushes us toward aggression, domination, and destruction. Civilization tries to control these impulses through laws, moral values, and social systems. But these impulses never completely disappear. They remain beneath the surface, waiting for moments of fear, insecurity, or crisis. And when those moments arrive, societies can quickly turn against each other. 4. The shadow we project onto others. Perhaps the most powerful explanation comes from the psychologist Carl Jung. Jung believed every person carries something he called the shadow. The shadow represents the parts of ourselves we do not want to admit: anger, envy, prejudice, insecurity, and the desire for control. Instead of confronting these feelings, people often project them onto others. Entire groups may become symbolic enemies. A nation may see another culture as dangerous. A political group may view opponents as immoral or corrupt. When this happens, the enemy becomes more than a rival. They become a symbol of everything we reject within ourselves. And once a group is seen as a threat or a symbol of evil, it becomes easier to justify hostility, discrimination, or even violence. 5. How narratives turn people into enemies. Conflicts do not grow only from emotions. They are also shaped by stories. Political leaders, media institutions, and social movements often create narratives that divide the world into two simple categories: us and them. These narratives transform complex human beings into simplified images: heroes on one side, villains on the other. Throughout history, such narratives have prepared societies for war, discrimination, and exclusion. In the modern world, this process has accelerated. Social media platforms reward outrage and polarization. Algorithms promote content that strengthens division because anger spreads faster than calm discussion. The result is a constant atmosphere of symbolic conflict, where people feel they are always defending their identity or beliefs against an enemy. 6. Why this matters for human rights. Human rights are built on a simple but powerful idea: every human being deserves dignity, protection, and respect. But when societies become obsessed with identifying enemies, this principle becomes fragile. Fear replaces empathy. Suspicion replaces dialogue. And dignity becomes conditional, reserved only for those within our own group. This is why understanding the psychology of conflict is essential for protecting human rights. Because the moment we stop seeing others as fully human, the foundation of human rights begins to erode. Conclusion: the real battlefield. The uncomfortable truth is that the greatest battlefield is not always between nations. Often, it exists within the human mind. As long as fear, insecurity, and unexamined emotions guide our behavior, societies will continue creating new enemies. But awareness can change this pattern. When individuals learn to recognize their own biases, question hostile narratives, and approach others with curiosity rather than suspicion, the cycle of conflict begins to weaken. Peace does not mean the absence of disagreement. It means learning how to disagree without turning each other into enemies. And in a world striving to protect human rights, that may be one of the most important lessons humanity can learn.